Welcome back everyone to Learning with Bunty Bhaiya, where I'm trying to teach you as I also learn different things about supply chain. Today we are going to sort of continue our journey in learning a couple more concepts in supply chain management before we actually start deep diving into things like forecasting, demand sensing, and things like that. So today, as you can see, we are going to more or less deep dive into push and pull process. But before the push and pull comes into the picture, there are a couple of things that we need to understand so that you can better understand the example that I would be explaining later. Now you would see that there are three terms called make to order, make to stock, and engineer to order. And for us to, for both of us, like you as viewers and me as well, let's just start with an example, right? The Bunty Bhaiya ice cream factory here might not be a very good example. So I'm going to take something that people would have experienced in real life. So let's take an example of a sandwich shop, something like Subway, right? Here. Now, the way Subway works in India, or actually Subway is not the correct example now that I think about it, but let's just assume that there's something new at Subway as well. So the very first thing that we are talking about is make to order, which is how Subway works. Make to order means a customer goes, they place their order, they make it right there, and it's done. Right now, coming to make to stock, right? Let's assume that Subway has this display refrigerator where it has already put some sandwiches pre-made, and then a customer can just walk in, pay for the sandwich, and then just walks away with the order. That's called make to stock, that you're already making to stock them for the customer. The third thing is called engineer to order, which means that sometimes on the menu when you go into a restaurant might not be very relevant for Subway, but let's say that you go to an Italian place but uh, they do not have something on their menu, and you call the server and just ask them that, hey, I know you have this product A, this product B, and so you have the ingredients, can you make a product C? And more or less in fancy places at least they agree to it, and that's called engineer to order. Means that it's a one of a kind of dish that they are trying to get, which may not be sold very often, which may not be even on the menu, or if it's on the menu, it's something that is rarely ordered. So in those cases, when a company or a retail store or a service provider is trying to meet the demand, they call it engineer to order. Now going back to make to order, the make to order works on has two different processes. One is called push, the another is called, I know it looks like pull, but it's pull. Now what does push means? Push means that you are pushing the products into, let's say, into a sale or into trying to make an end product based on your forecast, right? Which means you have not received an actual order yet, but you're still trying to push it, expecting that the customers might walk in and they might order 10 sandwiches of a certain kind, 12 sandwiches of a certain kind. That's called push process, right? You are already pushing your orders based on a forecast. Forecast is like, it's, I think, self-explanatory at this point. Whereas the pull process is once you receive an order, you start preparing it, right? So, and that's why I said it's make to order, right? So pull is, let's say I walk in, I ordered, I don't know in India which one do you get, but let's say there's a paneer Subway, and you order it and then they start making it and fulfilling it after you have received an order. But if you think about it, it's very rare that a supply chain for something or an operation of a store like Subway would be a pure push or a pure pull. We'll go back to them after I've explained you this example, but let's come to this example. Now assume that there are three products at Subway. One is product one, which is make to stock. The product two is make to order. For example, this paneer Subway that we're talking about, it's a make to order. There's a product three, which is engineer to order. It's like one of their sandwiches which is not very high in demand, but they have it on their menu, and they expect people they expect to sort of fulfill the demand if someone orders. Now this entire operation or supply chain in this case is let's say, divided into four parts, which called raw material, component, assembly, and sale. Sale is the final sale. We can call it final sale here. So raw material, when, let's say, when Subway is ordering the raw material, of course they're not going to wait for someone to place an order and then they'll start baking, getting the flour or the sauces that they have, right? So raw material will always be a push in all three cases: push, push, and push, right? PUSH, PUSH. So there's some kind of forecasting that they did, and based on all of, irrespective of which product it is, the raw materials were ordered beforehand. Now the component, for example, let's say this make to stock order was chicken, has chicken, cheese, bread, right? So the component is cheese and some sauces. They will put those components on the sandwich ahead of time because it's a make to stock. They're putting it in the refrigerator. So this again is push, right? Similarly, for the make to order, they will already have the components ready. So this again would be push. But this changes when you're talking about a product which is special, or again, as I explained, for engineer to order, this will be a pull. They might, let's say they have this cheese on the product that you have here. It's the same cheese, but it's melted form. So they will not melt the cheese beforehand. They will wait for the order to come in and then they start melting it. Now assembly, again, make to stock, the assembly will be push, right? Make to order, the assembly will be pull. Once you walk in, they will start assembling the ingredients that go in making your sandwich. Engineer to order, if this is pull, this can't be push, this is again pull. Now things change when we come to the final sale, which means that all of this until here was in the control of this Subway outlet, but here the final sale can only be made when a customer orders. So this one will be a pull, the other one will be a pull, and the last one will be a pull as well, which means unless a demand is created, everything will be pull. So you see the difference between the supply chain for it's in the same store, right? By the way, right? So the difference between the supply chain of this, the difference between the supply chain of this, and the difference between the supply chain of this, these three different products in the same store, but they are very different. Now that's why I said that generally the supply chain are a combination of push and pull. Now let's talk about something which is pure push, which means that an entire supply chain is like the entire manufacturing or entire, let's say, assembly of the sandwich is pushed. It's rare. It's not rare. It is seen, but there is a problem with this entire push thing where you would rarely find actually anything which is end-to-end push, because because the entire push is based on forecasting. Forecasting often has errors. If you have errors, you end up with a lot of unutilized inventory, which means greater chances of you losing money on a pure push process. Similarly, there's a pure pull concept, which means that, by the way, this one's very rare to see. If I think about it, the closest that I can think of a pure pull, which means that things only start building when you have received an order. I think the closest that I can think about is Dell. Even then, Dell is not the pure pull thing, because Dell will not start making my motherboard once I place the order. They will start the assembly once I place the order. So actually, I can't even think of anything which is pure pull. But I think pure pull, you understand the clarity, the concept, because since it's not based on forecasting, it's based on actual demand. The inventory is very less, but the turnaround time or the lead time that we generally say in the supply chain industry is going to be very high for pure pull. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that every supply chain is a combination of pure push and pull. It's just that what is the point where a push changes to pull and waits for the actual order. This point is called a push pull point. For example, here we try to understand that push pull point might be here, it is here. In this case, push pull point is, for example, let's say you have you have certain things that you have forecasted. For example, you have forecast, in this we'll just talk about, let's say we talk about the MTO. You forecasted this, but you have not forecasted this. Thus this becomes your push pull point. But yeah, I hope this was helpful in making you understand these three concepts, and also what does a push process versus a pull process, how does it differ, what does it mean. I think we'll be deep diving into forecasting, different kinds of forecasting. How do you do it? That kind of videos very soon. But I think there are a couple more concepts that we need to understand before we actually deep dive into the maths of it. I will try to make it not very mathematical and put it more like from the logical and the concepts point of view. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. Until the next time, stay happy, stay healthy.